staying with us on the World News right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachiku, and these are the top stories. Teen planned explosives, knives attack at Swift concert. Atiku's aide reacts to presidency's misleading video. Confusion amongst Tinubu's aides as Bayo Onanuga denies video. Others repost address. DSS denies raiding NLC national headquarters. Federal government suspends plan to sell 40,000 naira bags of rice to Nigerians. And 2 injured as car's truck explodes in Lagos petrol station. Details now. Well, we begin. An Australian security officials disclosing that a 19-year-old arrested on Wednesday was actually planning to kill a large crowd of people in a suicide attack at a Taylor Swift concert in Vienna. Officials also say the teen who had previously pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group confessed that he intended to carry out an attack using explosives and knives. Swift's 3 sold-out shows at the Ernst Happel Stadium have been cancelled. More than 195,000 people have been expected to attend. Local media also reported that the 19-year-old, the main suspect out of 3, had stolen chemicals from his former workplace. The Courier newspaper cited sources reported that he used to work at a metal processing company in his hometown of Tenitz and that he had made progress in building a bomb. The outlet also reported that he had planned to drive a car into the crowd expected to gather outside the stadium. Security officials at a news conference today did not comment on where he got the chemicals, but public security Chief Franz Ralph told reporters that chemical substances and technical devices found at the main suspect's house showed concrete preparatory actions. While back home in Nigeria, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's special advisor on media and publicity, Paul Ibe, has called on the presidency to apologize to Nigerians for the misleading appeal video of President Bola Tinubu posted on his X handle on Wednesday. Paul Ibe said Nigerians thought President Tinubu showed empathy to their cause through the video, only to realize they were misled. Ibe argued that the controversy from the video showed lack of coordination amongst the president's inner cabinet. He accused the presidency of spreading fake news to citizens and engaging in misinformation. Ibe wrote, and I read, "The scenario says a lot about the character of the Tinubu presidency, the proficiency of his media managers, and the attitude that the presidency accords the current hashtag End Bad Governance in Nigeria protest. For a start, what the Tinubu presidency did with the old video is to pull the wool over the eyes of Nigerians with a view to distract them. It's a mannerism that is symptomatic of this presidency. This president and his media managers are a class act in propaganda. It is indeed shameless that in time when misinformation is being blamed for public outrage in many parts of the world, the Nigerian government is caught red-handed in the act, adopting it as a state policy," end quote. He added that Tinubu's administration is deficient in credibility. Ibe said inefficiency of Tinubu's media aides regarding the Wednesday video explained the reason for current economic hardship in the country. Meanwhile, a presidential address which was posted on the verified X, formerly known as Twitter handle of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, generated confusion amongst his media aides. Now, you'll recall earlier that the president in the video acknowledged the hardship Nigerians were going through as a result of subsidy removal. Now, while several Nigerians felt the address was another appeal to end the ongoing hashtag End Bad Governance protest and hardship in the country, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, however, said the trending video is not new. Now, according to Bayo Onanuga on his X account, he wrote, "Trending video of President Tinubu is an old video. A trending video of President Tinubu which came out on Wednesday is not a new video. It's a clip from the broadcast he made last year. President Tinubu has not made any other public statement since his last broadcast on Sunday." He explained that the clip is from the broadcast President Tinubu made last year, noting that the Nigerian leader has not made any other public statement since his last broadcast on Sunday. Despite the claim of Onanuga, several presidential aides have reposted the address, which was shared on the official account of the president. The likes of Ortega Ogra, Frederick Nwabufo, senior special assistant to the president on public engagement, posted the video. According to Ogra, he wrote below, "A passionate plea from President Bola Tinubu at official bat to all Nigerians." Nwabufo also retweeted the post from Ogra's post. Now, in a recent development, the Department of State Services has actually denied allegations suggesting that its personnel conducted a raid on the Nigerian Labour Congress headquarters in Abuja. VOP News gathered that this statement follows claims made by the NLC on Wednesday, which asserted that secret police operatives had invaded their office and whisked away certain documents. The union reported that the operatives arrived at the Labour House at approximately 8:30 p.m. The NLC indicated that it could not quickly determine the full extent of items removed from its offices. Nevertheless, in a statement issued today, the DSS spokesperson Peter Afanaya clarified that its personnel were not involved in the disruption of the Labour Union's office. Meanwhile, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government has put a halt to the initiative aimed at selling subsidized 50-kilogram bags of rice to civil servants at the price of 40,000 naira. You recall that the federal government had recently said it had created centers across the country where Nigerians could purchase 50-kilogram bag of rice for 40,000 naira. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, said the plan was one of several initiatives by President Tinubu's administration to ease living conditions for citizens. A statement earlier in the week through the Federal Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, which was signed by the Director of Human Resources of the Ministry, Jaisimi Abimbola, disclosed that all interested public servants were to complete a Google form on the OHCSF website and submit it to the Director of Human Resources for endorsement. This plan, however, has now been halted, as noted in a communique entitled Withdrawal of Internal Circular on Sale of Subsidized Rice to Public Servants, which was signed by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, which is from the Human Resources Management Department. VOP News also understands that the circular was directed to directors and heads of department. No explanation, however, was provided for the withdrawal of the plan, which certainly will leave many civil servants who had registered not involved in the disruption of the Labour Union's office. Now, in a recent development, a 12-ton gas truck today exploded at a mobile filling station opposite Airport Hotel, Allen Junction, Lagos State, which caused severe injuries on 2 persons. The Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Emergency Management Authority, Dr. Olufemi Okeosayintolu, made this statement recently. Mr. Okeosayintolu disclosed that the agency responded to a distress call through the 767 and 112 toll-free emergency lines at precisely 11:08 a.m. about the incident. He said the agency activated its Tiger response team from the Command and Control Center, Alausa, Ikeja. He said 6 cars were impacted by the fire, and the second floor of a 2-story building beside the gas station was also affected. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll head into our news analysis segment, while we'll be joined via the telephone with Barrister Fred Nzako. Barrister Fred Nzako is a political, national and social affairs commentator, and of course, he'll be responding to some of the questions posed to him. Kindly stay with us.
Hello?
Can you hear me, Barrister Fred
Hello?
Nzako?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you so much, and thank you for staying with us on the World News at 6. Barrister Fred Nzako, in a very recent development, some youth in Bauchi State burnt down the palace of the district head of Lere Town in Tafawa Balewa local government area of the state. Now, the youths attacked the palace following a clash between military and supporters of the People's Democratic Party from that particular town. 1 person was killed, while 6 others sustained injuries in the incident. Now, a resident of that particular town was shot in the eye during the military raid. The mob who touched the palace acted on the suspicion that it was the district head who encouraged the military to impose curfew on the community. Meanwhile, when that happened, the youths and their campaign team had a misunderstanding with the military, and the military decided to hide under the curfew to attack certain individuals before the time of the curfew. This was one of the youth statements concerning the shooting that took place there. So that Wednesday, which was yesterday, The angry youth stripped to the palace and set the building on fire. Now, efforts that were made to reach the district head was not successful, and this was according to Daily Trust. Barrister Fred Nzako, we've seen the reaction of the hashtag End Bad Governance protest in the northern region. As of yesterday, we had reports of a young teenager who was shot. He was sitting in front of his house and he was mistakenly shot. But the residents of the community said that was not a mistake, that the military man, or supposed overzealous military man, shot twice at that compound, and then the bullet killed that teenager instantly. Now we are hearing that these youths were burning the palace of the emir in that particular Lere local government area in Bauchi state. So the question now is this: will this continue to occur? And how soon will the military and the presidency curtail this before it becomes something that is beyond the control of the Nigerian security agencies?
Well, it is very unfortunate that a protest that was meant to be peaceful across the country to drive home the fact and the point that people are hungry in Nigeria, a country that is very massively blessed in all ramifications. Yet the citizens are very hungry. The protest has become violent, has become a protest of tears and blood and sorrow, losses of lives and properties. Unfortunately, that was not the intention of the protest. And unfortunately, again, the criminal elements in the society had capitalized on this protest to unleash mayhem on the society in northern part of Nigeria. But the reason why so many people feel it is only happening in the north is because when we are talking of out of school children, when we are talking of a population of illiterates are uneducated and have no hope of being educated, we're talking about the north. And any moment, anything that is called protest, demonstration, or even no matter how intentioned and no matter how peaceful you want it to be, it usually goes violent in the north. Always. It is not the first time, and this will not be the last time. This is essentially because of the nature of the people in those places where so many children are not only uneducated, but they feel hopeless. Now, a lot of the allergies that used to feed them freely, because of the high cost of feeding, high cost of foodstuffs and the rest, the children are no longer getting food. And those allergies are looking for the slightest opportunity to unleash their anger. And I think all the while, all the cries about taming the out-of-school children and giving them life, Nigerians are beginning to see that now. And
but Barrister, let me ask you something. Ideally, is the military supposed to come in when things supposedly got out of hand, when the protesters are hoisting the Russian flag? I mean, we have several departments of the police, and we have an arm of the police that are responsible for curtailing things, getting to this particular situation where the crowd is enormous, they cannot contain it, because we saw armored tanks deployed. In fact, we saw in one of the videos that was circulated where there was an armored tank trying to clear out the protesters on the streets. Now, these armored tanks were shooting live rounds of ammunition at those protesters because they were taking off a green leaf as well. You know, there were so many. So who is a security agency that's meant to be out there when it's like this? Is the military meant to be amongst these persons to curtail anything from going out of hand? I just want to understand if the military is meant to be there.
Issues regarding internal insurrection, well, it's not an insurrection. Issues regarding internal protestation is handled by the police.
Okay.
But of course, if the police is overwhelmed, the military comes to give them backup. Whether the police has been overwhelmed in this case, or whether the military in their usual way, because the military in Nigeria is no longer the usual type of military you see in other countries, because Nigerian military usually gets involved in internal and even domestic issues. You remember with the one that happened in Abuja when Banex Plaza was placed under lock, because the military trying to meddle into civilian affairs. In Nigeria, unfortunately, the military meddles into civilian affairs, and most times take the job of the police and do that by themselves. And it is the state. It is the state that has encouraged and allowed this. Usually, in most places, military can only come in as the last option, especially when the insurrection has become unmanageable by the police. But here, even without the police doing anything, the military comes in as first line of action, and that should not be. It is the duty of the police. The police are responsible to handle in such internal issues.
Yes.
And I think that we have enough policemen in Nigeria to do so.
But Barrister, let me read out something that one of the residents said. He said some youths in the campaign team had a misunderstanding with the military, and the military decided to hide under the curfew to attack certain individuals. Before the time of the curfew, they launched their onslaught. So according to what these residents are saying, or those who participated in the protest, was as yes, there is a time for them not to be on the streets. Before the curfew was imposed, that was when most of these killings transpired. Now, according to them, they thought that the district head was one that had a collaboration with the Nigerian military who were there to curtail the excesses of the protesters. And that was when they supposedly killed some persons. And then they set the palace on fire. Now, this is another situation. As of yesterday, too, something similar happened. This particular military man or soldier actually shot twice at a young boy who was sitting in front of his home. Now, according to the residents in that area, that particular community was not protesting. They were literally in their homes and monitoring how the security operatives were parading the vicinity to ensure that nobody comes out to, escalate anything further. So what will happen to this overzealous military person? The military has apologized, compensated with about 300,000 naira. Is that enough for the life that was lost? And then again, why are these issues, the issues of the agitators, not addressed? Which will bring me back to my next question concerning the purported video that circulated yesterday.
Well, it is a season of anomy. It's a season of rage. It's a season where everybody has to be very careful and very cautious. And in a season like this, you will no longer know who to trust and who to believe, because there will be allegations and counter allegations. There will be blackmail. There will be accusations and counter accusations. But whatever it is, the military has no business with internal matters. Handling protesters, handling demonstrators, they are not the duty of the military, because they are not wired to handle such by their training and by their practice. These are purely responsibilities of the police. But like I said earlier, the way our military is deployed goes outside the international best practices. And that is why we had this unfortunate incident that we have in 2020 at the toll gate in Lagos under the NSAS protest.
Okay.
The military should not be the ones to do all those things. But when you now move across the length and breadth of Nigeria, you see military checkpoints all over the place. So it creates an impression that the entire country is at war. Ordinary, when things, little matters that should be handled by the police, you see the military getting involved. And I can tell you that that is not what the military is meant for. So there will be collateral damages once you deploy the wrong security agencies to handle certain issues.
Collateral damages like the lives of people. Unfortunately.
Collateral damages, because at the end of the day, you will not get the truth. At the end of the day, nobody's going to give you the truth.
All right, Barrister, let's look at this situation about the video that circulated yesterday, and that is where the misunderstanding came from. All right. Now, there was a purported video that circulated yesterday via a verified handle of one of the presidential aides. Now, in that particular video, it was purportedly stated that the president pleaded with Nigerians that he understood their pains. Now, on Sunday, after the president's national broadcast at 7 o'clock, a lot of Nigerians were not happy with the particular broadcast. They felt that the core issues of the hashtag End Bad Governance protest was not addressed. Rather, the president supposedly ruled out initiatives that his administration is working on, and thereby commiserating with those who lost their lives in the process. So it was easy for a lot of people to believe that particular video. Now, to make it worse, Beyond Bayo Onanuga coming out to denounce it, it was also reposted via other media aids handle. For example, Ogara, that is Frederick Nwabufo, Ortega Ogara, these are senior special assistant to the president on public engagement. They reposted the video, all right, meaning at official bat to all Nigerians, a passionate plea from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. All for Bayo Onanuga to come out and say that this trending video is old. It's not a new video. It's a clip from the broadcast he made last year. And this has angered quite a lot of Nigerians. And what is the problem with this administration and being truthful? Why do you have issues with being truthful and transparent with the people? And that is why anytime the president tries to give them any words of succor, they don't believe it because they feel they're being deceived. And this statement is reiterated by Jibrin Ibrahim. He said that Nigerians do not believe the presidency and they're angry because they feel the president has deceived them. So it's a problem with the president or his media aides where they give conflicting reports. The first time was with, what's his name? Festus Keyamo, Minister of Aviation. The other time is Ojirin Galali coming to tell us about the Dubai visa being lifted and then later telling us that that's not the case. So why would the inconsistency? What exactly are they doing with Nigerians with most of this information that at the end of the day they debunk and say it's not true?
The major problem with the presidency is also the major problem with any organization or authority where there is no truth. Truth is constant. But one Damfodio says that conscience is an open wound and only truth can heal it. And truth is ever constant. Anytime anybody tries to undermine the truth, you will need to tell so many lies to even cover the lies that you have released. That is a major problem. If they were talking to Nigerians in all truthfulness, there will not be all these contradictions. But when you are speaking to the people without sincerity and honesty of purpose, naturally there will be contradictions because there will be mistakes and there will be errors, and our efforts to make up for those errors will expose more errors. When I heard the broadcast from Mr. President on Sunday, my first reaction, which I also shared with some media houses, was that it sounded to me like an address that was horribly packaged because it didn't address the issues at stake. It seemed to me that it was a rehash of Mr. President's July 30, 2023 broadcast, where Mr. President, July 31st, 2023, where Mr. President narrated his intentions and his promises to the people, and out of which none of those promises have been fulfilled, apart from the issue of minimum wage. It sounded to me that there was a hurry to package that broadcast which Mr. President gave. And incidentally, many Nigerians, if not all Nigerians, did not were not at ease with such address because it was neither here nor there. It was more or less like a campaign speech by Mr. President and very far from the issues on ground. And now that this one that seemed to be more caring, it was hosted, and because the other one had come out, this one will now be a contradiction, and that is why they quickly went to pull it down from the sky. And that simply tells you that when there is lack of truth, there will always be contradictions.
But Barrister, why take Nigerians for granted? Don't you think this is a way of taking the genuinity of Nigerians for granted? Because this is basically the crux of the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. You come out and make several statements that are inconsistent or do not reflect the true intention of your administration. For example, let me give you an instance. He made a statement that when they remove fuel subsidy, right, the idea was that in weeks we will have CNG buses and the price of transportation will crash. They said this 13 months ago. Nigerians have not seen those buses. They were told continuously to wait for weeks, months, and a year, and nothing is coming. On that particular broadcast, the same statement was made. Oh, Nigerians, these are basically what we have for you. Governors have been given money. We're trying our best. But we're hearing them spend monies buying presidential jets, refurbishing the VP's presidential residence, and most of these things we're not seeing the actual needs of the people reflected. So when we try to place this pari passu with some of the statements they make and the stark reality on ground, how do they expect that tomorrow, anytime they genuinely want to tell us something, that the people will believe what they're saying?
Do you think that the government bothers about tomorrow? Do you think that the government bothers about the feelings of the people? Do you think that the government bothers about what they have said and whether they have been able to fulfill their promises? Go back and Google the president's address of July 31st of 2023, and you will patiently read it, and you'll find out that there is no difference between that address and the one he delivered this last Sunday. And that will simply tell you that the government is a promissory note government. Everything about this government is all about promises and intentions. And at the end of the day, the only ones that are done, are carried out, are the ones that benefit the members of the ruling class. And it's not difficult to ascertain the fact that the government cares less about the people. And that is why those who are handling Mr. President are unable to tell him, give him the true picture of affairs. I have once asked the minister, will you guys have the boldness to look your employer, the president, in the face and tell him the truth? And the minister said, unless you want to lose your job. So that is it. And Senator Alim Dume has cried out that Mr. President made himself unavailable to a majority of those who should tell him what is going on. But Alim Dume said so. They ostracized him and punished him for speaking the truth. So what it now means is that speaking the truth in Nigeria has become a thing. So if you want to be a good boy or a good man, you follow the Joneses. Tell lies, tell the people the propaganda that you pay they should hear, and think that unfortunately the current crop of leaders fail to realize that even if human memories cannot remember, the internet will always remember. And that is where they will begin to have problems and they will run up and down, delete one and hold the other. That has always been the action of this government and the activities of APC since 2015. All promises cancelled. That is APC. I make bold to say this because for the past 8, 9, 10 years, Nigeria has never had a breather from this current government of APC. I'm not saying this because of political partisanship, but I'm saying this because Mr. President said he was going to continue the program of President Muhammad Buhari.
Yes.
And we're now seeing it that it is even getting worse to the extent that people are now beginning to even miss Buhari. It is a very unfortunate thing, and that is why the youth are restive. Not just the youth, the elderly ones are also restive, but because their bones are weak, they cannot stand all the day in the sun. Otherwise, about 180 to 190 million Nigerians are ready to protest because this government is not delivering on its promises.
Now, Barrister Fred Nzako, do you realize that in the midst of this supposed hashtag End Bad Governance protest, with the deployment of the strongest fortified security agencies to curtail the excesses of this protest or possibly even prevent it from taking place, Boko Haram and supposed bandits are still unleashing mayhem? For example, the struck in Kaduna, leaving 6 persons dead, 26 abducted. This again was in Sabongida, Libere, in Ngwan Nabara and Kali communities in Kauru local government area. Locals said the bandits, or supposedly the terrorists, invaded the villages in separate attacks, killed 6 persons and abducted 26. So where was the military in this? Where was the DSS in this? Where was the SWAT police team in this? Because if you have these deadly people exerting mayhem in this community, and you have the security agencies in all their formation deployed to scuttle the protest or curtail the excesses of the protesters, then what do they consider to be a priority? They don't prioritize nipping in the bud the excesses of Boko Haram and ISWAP or the bandits, but rather what is the priority is to see how they could scuttle those who are protested for supposedly the unsatisfactory economic policies being implemented. How do you place this?
Security experts have said that Nigerian military is capable of securing the territorial integrity of this country if there was sincerity and honesty of purpose. When you now read in between the lines, several times many military leaders, theater commanders have cried out that they are not given the necessary cooperation that they require to carry out the war against terrorism in Nigeria. And even the men on the field have cried out that they are not being given even their basic allowances and the food for them to be able to continue this fight. What does it tell you? It tells you that corruption has not allowed the Nigerian government, Nigerian military to defeat terrorists. And it is the same corruption that has festered in many places where there are solid minerals, solid mineral exploitation, illegal mining of solid minerals. Either the insecurity will go ahead of it, and by the time the people are back from the place, then they begin to mine. We saw that in Zamfara. Major Mustafa, former CSO to General Sani Abacha, has said that the area called Sambisa Forest is rich in uranium and other precious solid minerals. That is why that place is made insecure and unsafe, so that illegal mining can be going on even as we speak. We saw that in Zamfara, we saw that in Niger, and we saw that in some other places in the north. So what it now means is that there is a correlation between illegal mining of solid minerals and the preponderance of insecurity in the northern part of Nigeria. And that is why it is difficult for the terrorists and the bandits to be defeated. All this while that the military are telling Nigerians that they have technically defeated terrorists, especially under Buhari administration, has been all lies and propaganda. As we speak, they are still disturbing people in the north. So it is not far-fetched to see where the problem lies. The problem lies with insincerity, with dishonesty, and with corruption in high places in Nigeria.
So, Barrister, if the presidential aide before this protest made allegations that Peter Obi, the presidential candidate in 2023 of the Labour Party, was one of the persons inciting for the protest to take place, and that a certain ethnic group too were those who were inciting for this protest to take place, and then we're now seeing this information that was purportedly, that went viral via verified media handles of aides of the presidency, and for the presidential aide to come today to denounce it. So who are the people responsible for propaganda and fake information?
A bad workman quarrels with his hose. The government is the representative of that bad workman that quarrels with the hose and tries to look for somebody to make a scapegoat. And that has been the style of APC. Recall that when Buhari came into power, he continued to blame PDP for the first 6 years of his government. And by the time he was unable to blame PDP, he turned around to blame the judiciary and to blame any other person except himself and his people. Now, President Tinubu said government has started by blaming President Buhari's regime that they inherited very bad government. And when Buhari's men wanted to counter that, they now shifted their blame to blaming the governors, that the governors are not doing well at the various states, and that is why the country is not moving forward. Meanwhile, they have again not blamed themselves. They have again not looked at their policies that are draconian, that are anti-people and retrogressive, and that has brought untold hardship on the majority of Nigerians. At the end of the day, you will now see that they are always looking for who to blame, and that is why the presidential aide will open his mouth with all manner of shame to blame Mr. Peter Obi that he was the one fueling the
hashtag End Bad Governance project.
And when the people told him that he was speaking out of point, they started looking for who else to blame. Recently, they called the international community, all the ambassadors, and were addressing them as if they are addressing primary school students, and saying that they have found out that some of these people who are arranging this protest are from the diaspora, and that some of them are in the international community. simply because some illiterate children carried the flag of Russia. They did not even know what it meant. I can tell you that a government that will always look for who to blame needs to go and stand in the mirror and look at itself. The problem of this government is within this government. The people who bear the brunt are Nigerians, and that is the most unfortunate thing. And that is why this protest, even though it has stopped, or even though it will stop tomorrow in some places, don't be surprised that even though people are at home, they will be protesting individually, and then slightest opportunity again, they will fill the street in protest until the government does what is right.
All right,
consider the downtrading and then have policies that will touch the lives of the people, and not a case of wanton loot and wanton stealing of looting and stealing of public funds and treasury that is going on in government at all levels.
Barrister Fred Nzako, thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your perspective and some other stories in the world news at 6. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Many thanks.
To wrap up here again are the top stories. Teen planned explosives and knives attack at Swift concert. Atiku's aide reacts to presidency's misleading video. Confusion among Tinubu's aides as Bayonanoga denies video. Others repost address. DSS denies raiding NLC national headquarters. Federal government suspends plan to sell 40,000 naira bags of rice to Nigerians. And 2 injured as gas truck explodes in Lagos petrol station. That's a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku. Good evening and thank you for listening.